In Iran, hundreds of thousands of people marched on Sunday towards the center of Tehran and the main cities of the country to celebrate the 45th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. In Palestine, the Arab League condemned the imminent Israeli ground offensive against Rafah, where 1.5 million Palestinians remain as refugees. In Finland, polling stations opened to hold a second round of presidential elections. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Friday, in the Ecuadorian province of Cotopaxi, the indigenous movement held its first march against the administration of President Daniel Noboa. Representatives of the native peoples marched through the streets of Latacunga city, claiming for increased security and for the right to implement their own justice system. Also, demonstrators denounced the lack of health services, education, employment, and the increase of the value-added tax introduced by Noboa. This is considered the first protest of indigenous movement against the administration of President Noboa and his measures to tackle organized crime. In Ecuador, authorities are running security operations in state prisons, mainly in the El Litoral prison, due to inmate links with organized crime. Regional Police Chief Freddy Goyes said Friday that during the Carnival holiday, they will continue with searches and censuses in the country's prisons. He said they will continue taking action against inmates with links to organized crime. Since January 9th, the Ecuadorian government is waging war against organized crime. So far, they have executed 1,341 arrest warrants, with some 200 of those detainees allegedly being involved in terrorist actions. In El Salvador, the Supreme Electoral Tribunal has officially announced the victory of Nayib Bukele, despite reports of over 37% abstentions. Bukele has become the first president to be re-elected despite constitutional ban on that regard. They have announced that after counting 100% of the votes cast, last February 4th, 2.7 million Salvadorans out of the more than 6 million registered voters favored Nayib Bukele and his New Ideas party. The announcement came amidst alleged irregularities and fraud claims made by social organizations. Those claims add to the complaints made regarding alleged failures in the automated voting system. In Peru, around 334 areas in the Central Highlands were declared as critical due to the danger of landslides and floods caused by heavy rainfall. According to the National Service of Meteorology and Hydrology of Peru, moderate to heavy rainfall is expected in the highlands and moderate to extreme intensity in the north coast from this Sunday to Tuesday, February 13th. Also, they warned about the possibility of rainfall with hail in localities above 2,800 meters above sea level. There will be snow in areas above 4,000 meters above sea level in the central and southern highlands. In view of this situation, the agency called on the population to protect and reinforce the roofs of their homes, as well as to establish an early warning system by means of whistles, bells, alarms, sirens, or loudspeakers in coordination with local authorities. In Argentina, more than 387 people and 18 reversal brigades continue working to extinguish the fire in the Los Alerces National Park, located in Chubut. The Department of Fire Communications and Emergencies reported that the fire in the national park affected at least 7,808 hectares and continues active. Likewise, the National Meteorological Service reported a storm with electrical shocks from the north of Neuquén, and stated that due monitoring for the possibility of it extending to the south of Chubut. In this sense, tourist services work normally and motorists are recommended to drive with caution on the route near the national park. On the other hand, a yellow alert has been issued in 7 provinces and an orange alert in Buenos Aires after heavy rainfall. In this sense, the National Meteorological Service forecasts rainfall values between 50 and 80 millimeters that could be exceeded. The scientific entity recommended to stay away from coastal areas and light poles or power lines. It also recommended to always have an emergency backpack ready with a flashlight, radio, documents, and telephone. And with TeleSUR, you can now celebrate one of the largest festivals in the South American continent. Gladys Quesada brings you all the details in this Carnival Time 2024. Tune in every day this week at 7 p.m. Caracas time through our Facebook Live at TeleSUR English Official and X account at TeleSUR English and discover our most colorful celebrations. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. In Iran, hundreds of thousands of people marched on Sunday towards the center of Tehran and the main cities of the country to celebrate the 45th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. The massive marches started in the morning hours on Sunday, February 11th, with shouts of "Down with the US" and "Down with Israel," the main adversaries of the Islamic Republic since the victory of the Islamic Revolution in 1979. In Tehran, the capital, the crowd marched through the main avenues in the center of the city to congregate in the emblematic Azadi of Freedom Square, one of the main protest points during the revolution that deposed the pro-Western Pahlavi monarchy and established the Islamic Republic. This year's marches have also become an opportunity to condemn the genocide and barbarism committed by the Israeli regime with the support of the US in the Palestinian enclave. Let's take a look at some of the achievements of the Islamic Revolution. The Velayat 7 maneuvers, where Iranian Air Forces tested smart bombs and modern weapons, as well as the design and manufacture of Qadir submarines, used in the navigation of the waters of the Persian Gulf in protection of peace and defensive diplomacy, and the creation of a long-range ballistic missile capable of detecting targets at a distance of 200 kilometers. They are part of the list of achievements in the military area during these first 45 years of the Islamic Revolution. In the cultural field, Iran worked in the tourism industry to become one of the countries with the highest number of tourists, for which created more than 2,000 education centers, in which more than 4 million people receive university education. The nation also dedicated itself to internationalizing Iranian art, its handicraft being some of the most popular in the world. Iran's scientific technological development has earned global recognition in this area, ranking first in the development of nuclear energy as an alternate source of fuel, despite the restrictions imposed from the West. Iran continues its efforts to contribute to the production and scientific and technical evolution of the planet. In terms of international policy, since the arrival of the Islamic Revolution, stands out the support for the expulsion of U.S. troops in West and East Asia. It has also consolidated relations of comprehensive cooperation with countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. It has also raised its relations with China and Russia as reference of emerging economies and world leadership. At the same time, the Iranian government has achieved an important position in today's global geopolitics without undermining its identity, sovereignty, and national dignity. Nicaragua congratulated the government and people of Iran on the occasion of the 45th anniversary of the Iranian Islamic Revolution. In an official letter, President Daniel Ortega and Vice President Rosario Murillo conveyed, on behalf of the people and government of reconciliation and national unity of the Republic of Nicaragua, the nation's most sincere congratulations to the Iranian leadership and heroic people. The letter wrote, "Our brotherly peoples of Iran and Nicaragua have traveled a common path in defense of their fundamental rights and the closeness of our convictions for the creation of a world of peace, justice, and prosperity." The letter added that Nicaragua reaffirms its commitment to continue strengthening the bonds of friendship, fraternity, solidarity, and cooperation that unites both peoples and governments. Condemned the imminent Israeli ground offensive against Rafah, where 1.5 million Palestinians remain as refugees. The Secretary General of the Arab League, Ahmed Abul Ghaid, warned in a statement on Sunday that plans to displace hundreds of thousands of people from the southern Gaza Strip, people who have taken refuge there as a last resort in the face of Israel's indiscriminate attacks, is a serious threat to regional stability. The official said Israeli extreme right wants to empty Gaza of its inhabitants through a policy of ethnic cleansing to recolonize the area with Israeli citizens. He said pushing Palestinians to flee Gaza and into Egypt is a violation of international law. The siege and genocide by Israel against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip reaches its 128th day, with new bombardments on the civilian population. Gaza health authorities report that at least 42 people have been killed in the last few hours, while dozens more wounded after the bombing of a house housing Palestinian displaced in East Rafah. In parallel, Israeli occupation forces attacked the center of Gaza, causing a new number of dead and wounded. Exact figures are unknown due to communications interruptions in that enclave. A non-final tally indicates that Israel has killed over 28,064 people and would have left over 67,000 injured. In Palestine, organizations defending the rights of Palestinian detainees announced that a total of 245 civilians have lost their lives in Israeli jails since the occupation of Gaza and the West Bank in the 1967 war. According to data from the Palestinian Prisoners Club, to this figure must be added a group of Gaza detainees murdered in the Timan camp. The Prisoners Club and Prisoners Affairs Commission stated that in the last 3 months of 2023, 7 Palestinians died in Israeli jails after October 7th, the date on which the current cycle of violence in the occupied territories began. Both organizations denounced that the prisoners are not only subjected to torture by Israeli forces, but suffer bad sanitary and hygienic conditions, as the Israeli Attorney General's office admitted in a recent report. In Italy, hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters took to the streets to demand an end to the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. Demonstrations took place after Israel's most recent attack that killed at least 44 Palestinians, including over a dozen children in Rafah city. Activists said that after 4 months of Israeli siege on Gaza, more and more people have come out in Italy to demand an end to the illegal occupation. So far, over half of the 2.3 million inhabitants of Gaza are taking refuge in Rafah after following Israeli evacuation orders. The Israeli regime currently occupies 2/3 of Gaza. In Spain, dozens of demonstrators gathered on Saturday inside a shopping mall in Valencia, calling to boycott the French supermarket franchise Carrefour for supporting the Israeli regime and its war crimes in Palestinian territory. Activists waved Palestinian flags as they walked through the supermarket, chanting slogans like genocide and boycott Carrefour. And in the United Kingdom, citizens rallied in Manchester City to demand an immediate ceasefire and an end to the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. Protesters chanted slogans such as "End the occupation now" and carried placards saying "Stop the massacre in Gaza." At the same time, demonstrators condemned the British government's complicity with the extremist Israeli government of Benjamin Netanyahu. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. This Sunday in Finland, polling stations open to hold a second round of presidential elections. In this round, Conservative Alexander Stubb and the representative of the Green League, Pekka Haavisto, will face each other. Both candidates reached the second round after winning 27.2% and 25.8% of the votes respectively in the first round, beating the other 7 candidates. Approximately 4.5 million Finns are expected to go to the polls between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. local time to elect their next president. And minutes after closing the polls, the first official data will be released. The Russian government described as economic banditry the European Union's plans to use the profits from frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed in a press release their disapproval of what they described as a new attempt by Western countries to confiscate their sovereign reserve. They also denounced the plans of the joint West to use Russian assets to support Kiev since the bloc's debt is already huge. The Russian authorities also reminded that all such actions constitute a serious violation of international law. The Russian anti-aircraft defense intercepted and destroyed on Saturday 3 Ukrainian drones flying over the province of Bryansk. The Ministry of Defense informed that Moscow prevented a new terrorist attack by Ukrainian forces. The agency detailed that no human lives were lost, as they were unmanned aerial vehicles. Russian civilians denounced the regular impact of shells, the presence of drones, and other attacks by Kiev on the Russian provinces bordering Ukraine of Belgorod, Bryansk, and Kursk, forcing these populations to seek refuge elsewhere. In Senegal, a young man was killed during a demonstration against the postponement of presidential elections. The death of this college student was reported by an official from his university in the city of St. Louis. In Dakar, the country's capital, the police repressed demonstrators with tear gas to prevent them from reaching National Square. This first day of major nationwide protest was held against the parliament's decision to postpone presidential elections until December 15th, as requested by incumbent Macky Sall. In Bolivia, the city of Oruro celebrated the carnivals with various dances in veneration of the Candelaria Virgin of Socavón. Over 50,000 dancers, 15,000 musicians, and at least 300,000 tourists participated in the carnival celebration. The dancers danced almost 4 kilometers to the shores of the Candelaria Virgin in order to receive the blessing of the priest and to thank her for all the favors granted. It should be highlighted that the Carnival of Oruro is oral and intangible heritage of humanity since 1995. In Venezuela, the state of La Guaira lived moments of carnival with double joy after the triumph of Los Tiburones baseball team in the Caribbean Series 2024. Citizens celebrate the carnival festivities and the triumph of their baseball team as champions of the Venezuelan League and the Caribbean Series after 15 years without obtaining the highest award. In this way, the governor of the state of La Guaira, José Alejandro Terán, expressed that this triumph is a feeling that transcends and occurs at a good moment. Terán pointed out that the carnival in La Guaira is successfully lived with the presence of at least 200 people, floats, parades, concerts, festivals, colors, happiness, and peace in spite of the consequences of the U.S. blockade against the country. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos, and before closing, more images of the amazing carnivals taking place all over the region.
Lenta representa el traslado de los esclavos.